What's up, everybody? Today we're ripping off Worth It.
Well, welcome back to Feed Buzz, guys. I'm Steven.
I'm other Steven because we don't have an answer.
Welcome back to Is It Worth It?
It worth? So because of quarantine, it's been kind of difficult to go out a lot, and sometimes ramen outside is really expensive. So what better to do than to make a video comparing instant ramens that you can make at home.
So in front of us we have 3 ramens that will affect your wallet in 3 drastically different ways. So let's get to cooking.
And we're back with our first instant noodle. We just finished cooking it, so now we're gonna rate it. The 3 categories that we're gonna be rating it on are gonna be the noodles, the broth, and how we would compare it to your average ramen shop.
There's still that like sense of very instant.
Yeah.
Very
These definitely
quick.
basically look and feel like instant noodles. Okay, let's take our first bite.
Taste. I mean, taste-wise, it's not bad, but it's just sort of standard.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, maybe I'm biased because I'm just really hungry, but it's pretty good for like, what is it, 79 cents?
75 cents, something like that, yeah.
So for the price, definitely worth it, but you can immediately tell that this is an instant ramen that you would get at like any store.
So one thing is, okay, so in terms of the broth, I think that the flavor itself, I would give it a 3 out of 5. It's not bad, it's okay. The thing is, in terms of uniqueness, it tastes very similar to a lot of other instant like ramen broths. So in terms of that, I give it like a 1.5. And so it averages around somewhere like 2.75, 2.5, wherever you want to give it, somewhere around that range for the broth. Now for the noodles, I have to give it like a 2 because it's literally just
they're literally just
any
like
other
instant noodles. Like,
other
you're not
instant
gonna get
noodles.
around the fact that what you're getting is what you're paying for is what you're getting here. So
Now in terms of the ramen shop similarity, what would you rate this?
it's probably like a 1.5 to be
1.5.
honest. I don't know. I think if you compare it to just like your average ramen shop, they still have that certain like uniqueness to how they taste.
Yeah, I
and
think-
like you'll get that like feel when you like eat it.
But the thing is, I have to say, just as a food, I would eat this no problem. It's not that I think it only tastes 2 out of 5 good. It's just we're rating it in comparison to other things. Otherwise, I'd eat this anytime, man. Like,
Well, as a college student, I would definitely just eat this
man,
anytime.
75 cents, get some Logan man. Yo, man. This thing slaps. And then you add your own, when you add your own things to spice it up, man, this can feed you and all your friends for $4 or $5 and you get like 4 or 5 of these packets, man. It's a good time. So we gave this ramen an average rating of around 2 out of 5. Is that about right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And now that we finished the first price point, we're gonna move on to the second price point. Okay, so here we have the second price point, and it's fresh frozen, so it's a little bit different from packaged, but it's the similar idea. So you make the broth, they give you the seasoning for the broth, and you make the noodles yourself.
Yeah, and just from initial impressions, the noodles themselves, they already look higher quality. After defrosting them for a little bit, they're softer. They have that like starchy like.
That's one part because they're not like flash fried. They're like fresh frozen noodles, and from initial like glance, they're like yellower and more like eggy. I don't know if that's the word.
Yeah.
Like without even having tasted this ramen yet, it reminds me so much of like this ramen shop that we went to recently called Ryaki.
Yeah, we just gotta try and see how it is.
We'll give it a try and then we'll rate it. Same criteria as always: broth, noodles, and then ramen shop similarity.
Okay, cool.
Gotta try some broth.
Yeah, I can already tell that this is better than the first option by far. Like
the difference is it wasn't a powder seasoning, so that flavor, the broth seasoning was like pasty, liquidy sort of.
Yeah.
And to be honest, in terms of just the broth, I will give it a 3.5, between 3.5 and 4 on flavor and uniqueness. Once again,
this
it's
is
much higher. It's like
this is getting closer
it's also
to
like
an actual ramen place. Yeah,
3.5, something like that. 3.5, 4. To be honest, I'm quite surprised.
I'm pretty happy with what we have.
I'm actually really surprised because, once again, this is almost to my memory. This is almost identical to the ramen shop Ryaki that we went to. So in terms of similarity, I'm even gonna have to give it like a 4.5 out of 5 when we rate it to your average ramen shop. The thing is, also we don't have toppings on this. All we put an egg on it, but like,
yeah, but the egg is just for aesthetic purposes. It doesn't really like matter.
But like, let's say you put bamboo shoots, the pork, like the sliced pork, and like some seaweed or something. If they serve this at me, they did serve. I swear this reminds me so much of Ryaki. If they serve this to me, like, I would not be surprised if their ramen was this. Okay. See, and then rating their noodles, I'm gonna have to give their noodles like.
I think the consistency and the bite to it is a lot more satisfying.
Yeah, and it's like chewier. The other one broke down in the water
a lot quicker.
It got like mushy. This is a lot chewier and it maintains its like consistency a lot better. So what rating would you give it?
Overall, maybe like a 3.5, 4.
I'd give this a 4. I'm pretty surprised. The noodles I would give a 4, and that's because you can definitely taste like more egginess and more like it's almost like a baking soda taste. But that's why I say noodles, I give it a 4, and just in general, I give this a 4 because I'd be fine just eating this and not going to a ramen shop. So we were pleasantly surprised with the second one, and we're really excited. I'm really excited to see what that third one has to bring because
I think I'm pretty hyped for it because it is from Ichiran, and I've been to Ichiran, the place in New York and in Japan. So from my experiences there, I've loved their ramen. I think it tastes great. So I'm just wondering what their at-home kit tastes like.
And yeah, their ramen was probably the best ramen I've personally ever had in person. So yeah, let's move on to the third one.
And we're back, boys. This is the last ramen.
You know, after that last one, I low-key didn't know how an instant ramen could get like much better. But even not excluding the toppings on like this one that we put on, it still seems like quite a bit
really
better.
Good. Yeah. In fact, just from cooking it and the smell, like that had that like really like rich umami smell, like maybe like a little bit of garlic, right?
Not even talking about the smell, right? The other one was just like a pretty consistent pasty thing.
Yeah.
This one had fat in it, so they made sure to like include ingredients in the paste. They had fat that made sure to like increase the mouthfeel, if that makes sense. Comparison.
Yeah. Obviously, we went all out with the toppings this time just to make it look good. It is the most expensive one, but it does look pretty good in our opinion.
I feel so bad. I don't even want to touch it. It looks good. I don't want to touch it.
Well, anyways,
still the same 3 criteria. Let's eat.
Whoops.
Damn, I don't even know how to approach this. Just because I don't want to touch these. I don't want to touch it because it looks so good.
Alright, first bite.
I'm gonna mix a little bit of the spicy in. What I have to say is that it's definitely a little bit thicker of a broth than the other two. Like a little bit richer. Definitely, actually much stronger of a flavor.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, to be honest, as a ramen, I enjoy the noodles of the other one a little bit more. So these noodles, I'll give like a 3.5. They're pretty standard. There's nothing too special about them, in my opinion.
I think the difference is this comes in a box that's not refrigerated, so they have to be dry noodles, right?
Like these are definitely less elastic.
But I actually do like the feel of them. They definitely taste a lot different from how the first one did, like the instant packaging ones.
Yeah.
Like the way the noodles are, it doesn't have that like kind of like cheap like flash fried like.
It doesn't fall apart.
Yeah.
Just like that. But once again, I think the one before was a lot more elastic and did have more bite than this one.
I think maybe that just comes down to personal preference. But
when I compare that broth with the other two, in terms of it doesn't taste as much like the average ramen shop, but that's because it's definitely more intense, in my opinion. In terms of flavor, I'd give it like.
I'd still give it like a 4.
4, yeah, 4. In terms of uniqueness, though, the other ramen we gave it
like a 3.5, 4.
3.5, 4.
Like
this
that one tastes more like your typical like I'd say ramen shop that isn't like specialized, right? Like places like Ichiran are like they're touting that they're from like Japan and stuff like that, right?
This one I'd give it like, in terms of uniqueness, like a 4.5.
It's pretty unique.
I think that it's definitely not as good as when you have it in the
place, in the actual like store. But obviously, like you can't compare it to that because that's like fresh, right?
I think,
and the price you're paying is a lot higher for that too.
Considering what this is, I'm very impressed. And even to be honest, I would give it, in terms of your average ramen shop, I would give it a 5 or like.
Yeah.
To be honest,
this could compete, right?
It might be better than your average ramen shop. I'm not even gonna lie. I would have to give this because of the noodles. I think if you were to combine the broth of this one with the noodles of that one, you would end up with, or like the elasticity of the noodles from that one, you would end up with like a much better ramen. A ramen that I think is better by a good amount than your average ramen shop out there.
I think one day I gotta try eating at Ichiran and then just going home and cooking one and seeing how they compare. Something like that to just see the differences. But obviously, just being at home and not having had ramen like consistently, obviously, and just having like instant ramen and stuff like that, I think this is really unique and it tastes really good.
And the thing is, like, you're not able to find top of the line ramen shop everywhere you go. Like Ichiran, there are a few locations in New York City, but here in New Jersey, most of the ramen shops you find are just, once again, the run-of-the-mill ramen shops. So you're not, and like, to be honest, a lot of ramen shops taste pretty similar. They taste like the second one we had. This one is just a little bit more like elevated from that, excluding the fact that like you don't have fresh noodles, once again.
Yeah.
Overall, what would you give this?
Overall, I'd say I'd give this like a solid 4.5. Maybe even a 5, just because of how I feel after eating this.
Considering the fact that this is an instant ramen,
yeah,
I know that I'm not going to give this a 5 because I know that it's possible that there's like better out there in terms of like fresh ramen, that type of thing.
That's true.
But I'm going to give this a 4.5. I'm like very impressed with what it had to offer. I think just that extra like quarter to half a point comes from the fact that I think the noodles could have been better, but I don't think it was their fault.
Yeah.
For what it was really good.
For something coming out of our kitchen and as like college students and someone who could just make this at home, this is a really good deal, I think. So now we're here at the end of the video where we finished all 3, and it's time to give our final thoughts regarding all of them.
So what do you think was like the one that had the best value in your opinion?
For best value, I'd have to say the second one, in terms of pricing and taste, is probably the best value because the pack that we got was 3 servings and it was less than $6. So that comes out to around like $2 a serving. That being said, that was really comparable to most average ramen shops. It's something that was quick and easy to make. It satisfied me. I enjoyed the broth a lot more than the instant 75-cent pack. And the noodles themselves were actually pretty good.
I'm gonna have to give my winner. I'm gonna have to say that second one was, for me, like hands down the most best value, just because at $10, like, for the fact that it was an instant ramen and the fact that I think that it was better than a lot of ramen shops you can go to out there, I think it's worth it, considering if you're willing to like dish out the like price of takeout, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like $10 is still $10. It's like what some people spend when they go out to like eat dinner.
Yeah.
And like it's not necessarily the thing that you can just do all the time if you're like running on a lower budget, for example. Keep in mind that the second one is like a fifth of this price, right?
Yeah.
So you could be eating
of
that
those
every single day, and like you could have fooled me and said that was like your average ramen shop's ramen. Especially the fact that nowadays, when you have to do takeout from ramen shops, it's basically that same thing. Like, so for me, hands down, that second one was the most worth it.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed our Walmart version of Worth It here with instant ramen. It was really fun to do, and I'm pretty happy with it. Anyways, see you in the next video.
Peace.
That was kind of stupid.